Well,
Yeah,
we can.
open up a bit, but if it becomes like a thing that we do a lot, then
AJKT.
Awesome.
Sounds like we're back in like year 7. I think our name should be guys AJK.
I mean, yeah, that is definitely. I mean, yeah, that's definitely. Adam, didn't we do a video with AJ Productions or something at one point?
Productions, J&A Productions, I think.
Really?
Is it A&J? Because A&J was just my initials.
Oh yeah.
What about the chicken coop?
We could go back. I mean, we could either go to that or do GibbonUp, because GibbonUp is a game pun as well.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, it's like giving up, but given up. That was the point. It was a gibbon that had given up. It had its arms up like it was surrendering.
I'm really bad at wordplay. So...
I like that. I think that could work. We can go with that.
You've got to put this in the video, Johnny. Us just trying to decide on the name.
I have got some of this recorded, to be fair.
Is there a way of making if GibbonUp is our channel name? Is there a way of making it like a podcast related thing to do with gibbons, like Gibbon?
Oh, how did they talk? What's a group of gibbons called?
Gaggle.
True.
True. I don't think that's a goose.
Gaggle of gibbons.
Gaggle up.
Like a troop or something.
It must be a troop.
Giggly gaggle of friends.
No, that's so bad. That's so bad. Okay, well, it's just the unnamed GibbonUp podcast at the moment, and that's fine. Name coming soon, I guess. when we come together and decide on what a group of gibbons is called. Yeah, we just delay every episode. We'll just delay. There must be some like gibbon-centric words that we could use. Maybe they have their own way of talking.
Or different types of gibbon.
A group of gibbons is called a tribe or a shrewdness.
A shrewdness? That's a bad name.
No, it can't be shrewd.
A shrewdness of gibbons.
That can't be. Really? The shrewdness is true.
Apparently.
It's true. It's not true.
Well, shrewd dudes.
A dude shrewd. A shrewd of
Northern
dudes.
Butted-cheeked gibbon.
Oh, yeah, that's the name.
Buffed-cheeked.
Not buttered cheeked.
What about like rhyming with tribe? What rhymes with tribe? That's to do with games.
Tribe vibe.
Tribe.
What about a shrewd of dudes though?
A shrewd of dudes. Or the vibe and tribe.
The vibe and tribe vibe. Tribe of vibes. Tribe. I mean, if it was more of a mindfulness vibing podcast, I think that's
like
a
a lifestyle podcast.
Yeah, that's a good name, but it's not. We're talking about video games and staring at a screen for as long as possible.
It's pretty mindful.
It's the white-handed gibbon.
The white hand sounds like a cult.
Yeah, it does.
The Lord of the Rings army.
Yeah, Saruman's army is the white hand. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
I don't know if anyone heard, but the Gib Trib. I'm just gonna put that out again.
The Gib Trib.
The Gib Trib.
Gib Trib.
Good fibs with the Gibbs.
Hold on, somebody's at my door. 1 sec.
Don't you have a recording sign outside?
A light that's flashing.
The Gibbon Tribbon.
That's not even a word.
Got me.
Oh, gibbons have a secret language, apparently.
They're called lesser apes.
Oh, the Lesser Ape podcast.
Because the lesser apes.
We are definitely lesser.
Yeah.
Why does the Telegraph ask me to subscribe so I can read this article about gibbons.
Gotta get that gibbon cash.
Lesser apes differ from great apes. They're pair bonded. They don't make nests.
They don't make nests.
No, they more closely resemble monkeys than great apes do. They are very good. Oh, something about swinging, because they swing. They're really good at swinging through the trees.
We can't really say like swingers, can we?
No, no, we definitely
No,
can't do
that's
that.
not, no.
A completely different demographic.
I mean, we might get quite an audience.
Swingers
We might get a lot of
vibes.
people, but other people we want.
Swinger
disappointed.
dudes.
They'll
Yeah.
come for the swingers, stay for the game punts.
That could be our tagline.
Come for the swingers, stay for the games.
Run up.
Gibbons have a song.
Gibbons are great.
How does it go?
Gibbon.
So yeah, there is a Gibbon song. A funky Gibbon.
Yeah, Funky Gibbon is a video on GibbonUp. See, that's a vibing Gibbon.
I've tried.
The guy vibe.
Yeah, could have just a picture of a gibbon wearing headphones,
Yeah.
listening to a podcast.
Yeah, I'll draw it. Don't worry.
Black.
Yeah, don't worry, I won't be.
It's time to stand
Guess
up
we
for
need
the
to, like-
lesser apes.
Guess with the Gibbon thing, we have to try and relate it to games as well. Otherwise, it will look like we're like in nature.
We could always do nature episodes. I like
Whatever
that.
we want. Yeah, maybe it's good to not have a title for now. We can leave it open for whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
Essentially, we're just like having conversations.
Yeah, this is the unnamed GibbonUp podcast.
Yeah.
That's it. GibbonUp,
I like it.
but unnamed as a series
Alright.
so far.
Given up on
Number 1, episode 1.
Simon podcast.
Giving up on giving it a name.
Yeah, we've
Given
given
up on a name. There you go.
Oh,
Oh, baby. I think that's it.
Okay. I'm sighing to myself as I'm saying this. The Given Up on a Name podcast. We have given up on a name. I'm not naming it yet. It's open.
Yeah, I don't think
because
it's
you've
yet.
given up.
Giving
That is why we named the channel this, Kit. Thank
Which I've
you.
only just realised.
But anyway, we should probably start. You know, we've talked
Right.
enough. We've talked enough for this
Mhm.
podcast. We should probably start the real one. That was the prelude.
Yeah,
That was the prelude podcast. That was the Given Up podcast. We've given up on that.
yeah, that could be the bloopers.
Yes,
There's so many podcasts.
so many people getting 2 in 1. That's bloody bargain for free. Anyway, welcome and thank you for joining me, guys, for this
It's okay.
You're welcome.
Given Up
Yeah, it's fine.
podcast, episode 1. In the quarantine, so we're all remote.
Mhm.
Hence,
Very
different,
isolated from each other.
hence different mics and terribly balanced levels on my part.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
But yeah, I guess I'll explain what we're doing. We've come together to figure out what objectively 100% is the greatest game ever made. This is almost as close as possible to fact you'll ever get.
The last one.
With this system that I designed, which is completely random and single elimination and not seeded in any way. Basically, what happened was everybody submitted their top 5 games with no crossovers. So there were some games on other people's lists that I would have liked to put down, but I couldn't. But that's
I
fine.
stole them.
You and Kit definitely stole. Actually, all 3 of you have a game on your list that I probably would have put on mine.
So in sync.
Yeah, so obviously we've all kind of pretty much grown up together as well. played games together for a long time, so we have quite similar opinions. But basically, I put those five from everybody into a random seed generator and generated a 20-team single elimination bracket for us to run many head-to-heads of these games, figure out which one wins, and move on until we get to basically the final, and then we figure out from there what the greatest game ever made is. Objectively.
We win if it's one of our games. We win anything.
You don't win anything, though.
Pride, unity.
I mean, you could be proud that you were the one who got that on your list before anyone else.
That's a good enough prize to me.
That's basically what it comes down to.
It's just
right?
the speed.
It's just whoever picks the best games first.
Yeah. I don't. Do you guys want me to? Because quite a few of these games, because of the number, got buys through one round. So we have a first round of 4, and then that's 8 games go first, but they didn't get a buy, and there's a few games that did. Do you want me to go through, tell you what those first 4 brackets that we're going to do are?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I guess before that, I should introduce everyone. I guess. I'm hosting today. I'm Johnny.
Hi,
I'm
Johnny.
joined by very special guests, every single one of them. Adam Johnson,
That's me. Hello.
welcome. Kit Bower-Morris,
Hello.
welcome, and Tim Dashwood, all experts. Isn't
I mean,
that
that's
right?
one way of putting it.
Isn't that
Got
right,
my
Tim?
10,000 hours.
Tim, an expert on not only on video games, but the science behind them, and life, and nature, and everything else we stand for.
A surge of entertainment, I'd say.
But to get us moving, let me introduce our first bracket, which is a real juicy one.
I'm excited.
We have Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, arguably one of the best Call of Duties ever made. A runner for the best game ever, possibly.
Oh no!
Going up against Overwatch. A favorite of this group, and one of the best hero shooters ever made. Maybe the one that created the genre, some might say.
Absolutely, I'd say.
And
I mean, we're coming out swinging, right?
This
I'm
is a
shaking
big
at
one.
that competition.
This one's a big one to start with. I feel like we should just do it before we go into the other brackets. I would like to get into it straight away.
Okay, how long do we have? We've got a lot of games.
I mean,
to
let's just we gotta go as quick as possible. But I would like us to actually come to a decision.
Should the person who put them forward introduce the game?
Yeah, maybe. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, we go first, Tim, or
Yeah.
shall I?
Yeah, I'll take this one. So, I mean, Call of Duty 4 doesn't need much introduction. I mean, like Johnny said, arguably the greatest Call of Duty game ever made. I mean, obviously trying to take as much personal bias out of this as possible, but
Yes.
I mean, literal thousands of hours spent on this game growing up, so it was a natural contender for me. But I mean, you've only got to speak to anyone that's played the Call of Duty franchise, and COD 4's up there on their list. I think it was one of the first games really to hook people of sort of our generation into first person shooters and the Call of Duty franchise as a whole, and really paved the way for obviously subsequent Modern Warfare remakes,
which we
and
might
rehashes.
see later on.
Yeah, we might see later on.
Well, I do agree. I think Call of Duty 4 was the first. Well, I genuinely think that this one paved the way for, like you said, first person shooters. Like the team behind it really made a shooter that was just unbelievably good to play. Like it just felt so good to play. It was so much fun. It was so clean, like playing the standard Call of Duty modes, which are like deathmatch and free for all and stuff like that. I do remember the campaign, but my experience of Call of Duty is much more based around multiplayer.
Definitely, I think I'm the same as well. I think it's I think that's something that Call of Duty has stuck with, haven't they? They've really focused on multiplayer going forward. I mean, there's been some criticism, I think, of their single player campaigns throughout the years, but I think sort of why mess with something that isn't broken, really? If it ain't broke, why pour all their investment into a single player campaign when obviously the vast majority of their sales are going to go towards people that want to.
Well, yeah,
that's
true. But I would say for like I know that I think the most famous single player campaign is the Modern Warfare 2 one. It might be the most popular. That's just based on who I've spoken to, no numbers. And that for me is much more memorable. And I played both of them a lot. But maybe because as it was the first one, in my opinion, this is definitely up there as one of the best games ever made, because it really. I mean, look at how many first-person shooters there are. Like, I don't think there would be that many if this game wasn't made.
Yeah, definitely.
It still stays above the rest as the prestige of first-person shooters.
I mean, I haven't played it for many, many, many years, so I don't know. Like, if I went back and compared it to things that first-person shooters that we're playing now,
I've never actually played that specific one. You just hear like the name Call of Duty and everyone's heard of it.
Yeah.
You want me to buy Overwatch's corner?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say about Overwatch that hasn't before? Let's say that it's got its problems, like it's got its faults, and the one thing I'd come down to though is say that the four of us played it so much and have like fallen back in love with it. And I think there's just something in the game's DNA which is just so addictive. And they must be doing something right in that. They must be doing something really right for people just to keep going back for more. Being used and abused by this game that like has terrible social finding where people just abuse each other, but the game itself is just so addictive, and you just end up going back more every single time. I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what it's doing, but
I don't know. From my perspective, from like a designer perspective, I think there's no question, and like you'll see this throughout every Blizzard game, that their polish is like next level. Like the game feel of every hero in that game is like it's faultless. There's no hero in that game that feels bad to play. There's almost no aspect of that game that feels bad physically. For me, the downfall of it is the non-physical aspect, the stuff that I genuinely think like the first iteration of Overwatch that came out right at the beginning was the best version ever, where it didn't take itself as seriously as it does. And I genuinely think that maybe the introduction of the esports ruined the game for me personally, because it suddenly became so important for everything to be balanced. It's so important for them to bring out new heroes and maps and everything, instead of it being left to be this like beautiful random version of Team Fortress 2 that, in my opinion, was better than Team Fortress 2. But it's become, there's so many problems with everything in my opinion in that game. Like it's so saturated. The hero pool is so saturated now. That like they've improved it with bans and everything like that. But how long did that take them? The game came out in 2015.
Yeah, the bans came in maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Early 2020.
And I think, like from my perspective as well, like I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but for the level at which Blizzard, like you mentioned, is able to polish their games, the updates to core fundamental problems to that game have been incredibly slow. Like we were saying the other day about sort of how like for example, when you're queuing for a match, they've only quite recently in the grand scheme of things introduced the ability for party members, to be able to do something in that time and
or go
actually
to
train.
training or something. Yeah, keep warm.
I think it's just small quality of life improvements that game was kind of missing, which I think made me sort of lose interest with playing it as frequently as perhaps I wanted to at the beginning.
Yeah, because I definitely agree with all of those things. And it's like when you log on and play it, if you get it right, it can be so good. It can be the most amount of fun I think I've had on a game on Overwatch. Like when you get a win, away for like a half an hour match or something, and you finally pull off like the perfect play. I don't think any other game can do that for you. And I think that's something quite special and something quite new, and we have to like commend it for being, like kind of pioneering that like hero shooter. Also, I think I personally just like a sucker for character design in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think the character design in Overwatch is some of the best in any game ever.
It's awesome.
I mean, it's like slowly decreasing in quality.
Yeah.
Like around Sigma not having any shoes.
Super creepy.
It's just airing them out.
Why is he if he just floats everywhere?
Good question, Tim. But why did they bother to model his feet? Do you know how much more difficult that is than modeling shoes?
What? So he should have just had stubs, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Why did he have feet at all, man?
That would be more awkward. Well,
no, if they were like dissolved, and they would they were like smoky or something, that would be cool. Like smoky stumps, like they've been burnt off.
Like Mario or something.
Anyway, I feel like we should probably vote.
Yeah.
I don't know how you want to do this.
No.
I guess we just go. I try not to be influenced by anyone else.
Also, it's bad that there's 4 of us because
there's no tiebreakers.
What are we gonna do?
I don't know what you guys. I was thinking about this. What do you think we should do on tiebreakers? I think the last person just has to weigh.
Maybe the last person breaks the time.
Well, hold on. This doesn't make any sense.
Maybe
I didn't think this through.
Then you'd go the 2 people whose game it is. Me and Tim go first.
Yeah.
Then just do it in sometime one of you has a tiebreaker. Maybe in order of alphabetically. No?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what?
That would mean that Tim is always last.
So out of the last 2 whose games we're not reviewing, person who Johnny, you do the tiebreaker first.
Why don't we just, if we all vote and then if it's a draw, then it's a flip of a coin? Because if it's a draw, then they're so equal.
Yeah. I think that's the only fair way to do it.
So much pressure.
I was thinking of rock, paper, scissors, but how can we do that over voice?
You have to shout it.
Rock, paper, scissors, rock!
Okay. So, Adam, have you been convinced away from your pick, or are you sticking with?
I mean, there's been some pretty sound arguments. I think I'm really trying to separate myself from. I played Overwatch and I haven't played Call of Duty. I also think for me, I'll stick with Overwatch.
Okay. That's one vote for the Overwatch. Tim.
Well, I mean, I've sunk a fair chunk of time into both, so makes it a little bit easier for me. And it's got to be Call of Duty 4.
Interesting.
Damn. Kit, you want to go? We'll rearrange the order later.
I haven't played Call of Duty 4, but I have played Modern Warfare 2, so I feel like I have an idea of what it's like. I think it's got to be Overwatch for me. I think when I played Overwatch first, I just kind of got a click. I was like, oh, this is what shooters are meant to be like. Yeah, so my
Oh
vote goes for
god.
Overwatch.
I'm torn as well. So but if I'm thinking about this and taking myself out of it, I would probably say, and this is going to be annoying, but I'd probably say that Call of Duty is the better game.
I was not expecting that.
I kind of guess it's a toy. It's a toy cast.
It's a Dwayne cast.
Toy cast.
Dun, 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 dun. Right, I'm gonna do it.
Game show music.
Yeah, cue game show. Right. Okay. So I guess heads is Call of Duty, tails is Overwatch. You ready? I'm flipping a digital
I'm
coin.
so stressed.
And it is landing on tails. So Overwatch goes through to the next round.
Skinner.
But that was close. That was close. Right. Let's move on. Let's move on because we've got another one in theme. We actually have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So building on from that last one, up against Skyrim.
Oh god.
Ooh, which is also really hard. But let's get into it super quick. Both of these games are mine. Both of these games are my pick, so I'll introduce both of them real quick. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, obviously, it was graphically and kind of design and like the way that the game played a step up from Modern Warfare 1. I genuinely think it's the best multiplayer of any Call of Duty ever. I've played so much of this game. Like Tim was thousands of hours in Modern Warfare 1. I was thousands of hours in Modern Warfare 2, by far. Also, the campaign's amazing and quite well known, quite iconic as first-person shooter campaigns go. And then we have Skyrim, which is arguably the cornerstone of all RPGs ever. You know, coming from a series of Elder Scrolls games they had a cult following. Skyrim then came out and had the entire world basically playing it and still playing it. It got re-released, and it got re-released for VR as well a couple of years ago. And it's that game that I did this year pick it up again and start the game again to play it, and I have done that so many times to this game. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a monster when it comes to video games.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah, I have so many happy memories of playing Skyrim. I've never completed the actual story campaign.
Yeah, because you don't need to. I've completed it once.
No, I've no idea what happens. I guess you kill the giant dragon. Spoilers?
Yeah, spoilers. I can't really remember. It was so long ago. It's definitely not the most memorable part of the game, which might be a downturn. Maybe a good thing. I don't know.
And there's just so much like gameplay in it. I guess it's not really about moments of the whole experience in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say I'd go with Skyrim.
Well, that's a quick one. That's a quick decision.
Like, it's so hard, I think, when you've put loads of hours into a game, especially when you've grown up with a game. I think that's really powerful as well, because you just end up like having all these memories that you associate with it. So it's almost unfair because that just kind of wins outright. And I think that's maybe what comes down to a better game is just our own personal experience with it is maybe what we're going to find.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is almost impossible to decide between like significantly because they are so different. I do think that Skyrim it's done more for video games. I think like if this was up against Modern Warfare 1, I would have a more difficult time because they're both innovators. Like they both take their genre and make it 100 times better. Whereas Modern Warfare 2 didn't necessarily do that. It was an extension off of the first one. So for me, it kind of drops down against Skyrim in that sense.
Yeah. Is anyone thinking Modern Warfare 2 that they go that way?
The only reason I would think about choosing it is because I think the polish of like what it's trying to do is much better than the polish of what Skyrim's trying to do. I think.
Yeah, I do think that. Like, Skyrim is so massive that there are so many janky things in that game. Like, so many moments.
That's part of the charm of it, but I don't know if we're counting that. Is it?
I mean, it is part of the charm, but I don't know if that makes it a worse game, though. I don't think it necessarily does. I don't know. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, I've been mulling it over. I've been very quiet in this whole discussion. Must be honest. No, I think as much as I'm saddened by the exit of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, I would have to say that Skyrim is the better game.
I think it's hard to beat Skyrim though.
It is.
Yeah, I think like you say, Johnny. I think I'm inclined to believe that that Skyrim has done more for gaming in general, and I think it's probably, out of all the games on this list, it's probably one of the ones I've heard the name Skyrim said the most. So that's as objective as I can make it. Really, is that actually across the people I know and just generally across the video game sphere, I think Skyrim is probably one of the most famous games of all time. And I mean, that's saying something. So
I agree. So is that decided? We don't even need a vote.
So it's just a change. Call of Duty has had a really bad run of it there.
Well, I mean, the first one was real close. That was a coin flip.
Yeah.
So Skyrim moves ahead. So far, we've eliminated both Call of Duty games. Wow. That was quick.
Quicker than I thought.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sad.
I'm a bit sad, but I can go with it. I'm not sad that Skyrim's still in, and I understand why Overwatch is still in as well. I totally understand. But anyway, our next bracket, another juicy one. Oh, they're all juicy, but we have Hitman from 2016. A very good game. Excellent remaster of the franchise, kind of. Up against a favourite in The Last of Us.
Oh my God.
You can't do that to me, Johnny.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. It was random.
Okay, both of these are my games.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with Hitman because So it's Hitman. I didn't play it when it came out, but its release, I believe, was reasonably unique in the sense that it was released episodically.
Yep.
It's made up of, I think, about 5 levels, and each level was maybe released once every couple of weeks, maybe a bit longer than that. But what that basically made the game do was make the levels really, really in depth, because they knew that their players would be playing them for at least 2 weeks, maybe a month. I don't know what the release schedule was like. And just like, I rewatched Mark Brown's video on this game, called The Art of Repetition, and he just gets it perfectly right. Like, you feel like Hitman in this game. You feel so clever, figuring out different ways to kill your targets, but also just like through the repetition of playing this game, and you want to play each level again and again to like figure out new ways and different ways to kill your targets. You just become like this ultimate assassin.
It is,
which I love.
Yeah, it's as a Hitman game goes, I do think it is the best one ever made, and I did play some of the old ones as well, so it is really good.
And I've played Hitman 2 as well, and I think the Hitman 2016 is better than 2018 as well. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it, man. It's really good. But the second game on this list is The Last of Us, created by Naughty Dog. And this game is, well, I've been joking about it, but this game is gonna win this whole competition. I'm just saying, like,
okay.
I don't know, like,
so.
Any of you guys who vote against The Last of Us, I don't know if I can.
It depends on what it goes up against, Kit. I'm sorry.
I've looked at the whole list. There's nothing.
I think quintessentially, The Last of Us. Well, I mean, I've played this game so many times on many different platforms. I played it on PS3 when it first came out, got the remastered, played it on PS4 at least twice.
Yep.
Like, you know, it is one of my favorite games ever made, and I think it was probably one of the games that got me into the idea of making games from my career. It's very inspiring, but I do think it rides humongously on the story and the performance in the game. Whereas Hitman is the opposite. It's not about story really. It's almost entirely about gameplay. Yeah.
I guess, like, when I was thinking of games to put on this list, I was thinking about, like, what they were trying to do and whether they did it.
Yeah.
I think, like, The Last of Us was trying to do the story, and
they did it.
And they did it. And you know, I've never had a feeling in a game at the beginning of the winter chapter
where you're so scared that Joel is dead.
Terrified. I remember coming into school the next day and talking to you, John. I was like, oh my god.
Is a note, Tim, you haven't played this game, have you? You haven't played The Last of Us.
I have not, no. That's yeah.
So spoiler warning, just in case.
Yeah.
But you definitely should play it.
I mean, I think you will know by now that I've been desperate to play this game. I just don't have a working PlayStation.
Yeah, that is the one sad thing is, like, you know, I mean, Hitman is only on PlayStation?
Oh,
I think it's on PC, right?
Okay, so yeah, Last of Us being console exclusive makes it much more difficult to play. But I have played it. It's difficult for me. Like, I mean, Hitman. The fact that it was episodic actually inspired me to make Psy, the game I've been working on, episodically. Like back a year ago when we were first designing it, or 2 years ago. And like yeah, and I think it's amazing. It's not the first game to do episodic stuff. Like Life is Strange did episodic releases before that. But it is really unique and it really works. In my opinion, I can't like you said though. I do think The Last of Us is a timeless game. I think it will always be good. And for a game that's not designed to be replayed, like The Last of Us, which is just a story game, it is endlessly replayable in my opinion. While Hitman, being endlessly replayable, is designed to be that. So I don't know if you can take that as a stroke against or for either of them. But I don't know. I'm ready to vote though.
Yeah, same.
Also, we haven't spoken about The Last of Us' multiplayer, which was amazing.
Yeah.
The thing that tipped it for me.
Yeah.
So we did say that, in fairness, Hitman is more of a game. Last of Us is more of like an interactive movie.
Yeah.
Multiplayer, I think, is so underrated. Like, I had so much fun on that.
So good.
That's when I met you, Matt Adam.
Yeah, it is actually.
God, that was a long time ago. God damn, that must have been on PS3, right?
It must have been, yeah.
Awesome.
So I'd probably vote for, well, not probably.
Yeah, you can't.
Who are you voting for?
I'd vote for Last of Us.
Okay, Last of Us, 1 vote.
Yeah, as much as it saddens me for Hitman to not get my vote, because I think that it is such a good game, but I have to go for The Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, I'm gonna vote for The Last of Us. So I don't think
I don't think it does either, to be honest with
matters.
you. I mean, I was, again, a bit quiet in that conversation, mainly because I haven't played either game, but I do have opinions on both. I've watched a lot of Hitman gameplay,
Yeah.
and I do really enjoy watching it. But I've also tried to stray away from watching The Last of Us gameplay because I know it's so good and I don't want to spoil it. There you go. There's my vote. Last of Us.
Okay.
Mic drop.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's a clean sweep. That is a clean sweep. But Skyrim had a clean sweep as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You wait until The Last of Us comes up against Skyrim, Mark. Yeah, how are you gonna do that now? Anyway, next we have 2 interesting ones. Adam can introduce both. I love that Adams are so retro.
They really are.
We have Ratchet and Clank 3. And a game called Impossible Creatures, which is a childhood memory for me.
We put these 2 games against each other.
I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
This seeding has been quite unfortunate, isn't it?
Well, if you think about a single elimination bracket, in the end, the strongest game is going to win no matter the seeding.
Yeah, true.
I just want to quickly get everyone. So, who's played Impossible Creatures and who's played Ratchet Clank 3?
I've played both.
So
I haven't played either.
I've played Impossible Creatures, but not Ratchet and Clank 3.
Let's start with Impossible Creatures. Is essentially the game that every child kind of deserves to play.
I agree.
It's like every child's dream, where you just basically take 2 animals and you kind of mash them together into a weird hybrid monster.
I would say also every adult needs to play, to be honest.
Every adult with a child.
Okay. I'll play it.
And you then create an army of these like hybrid animal monster things. And you then it's like a strategy game. It's like the word escapes me. What kind of game is it when it's?
Yeah. Hello. I'm recording something. That's alright. That's cool.
You have to destroy the other person's lab. It's initially a multiplayer game. You had people online, and me and Johnny used to do it when we were about 5 years old, and our internet connections were terrible, and we'd cut out after 15 minutes. That sweet 15 minutes of gameplay was always great. There's also this really harrowing campaign mode.
Yeah, it's horrible.
This real deep, real rich narrative that's set in the 30s about scientists who discovers they call the Sigma technology, which is what allows them to combine these animals. And you have to essentially destroy a guy who wants to take over the world using this technology. And it's got murder and mayhem and romance in it. It's great. And it's got a really cool storytelling feature where they have journals and it's all black and white. It's really cool. That's Impossible Creatures. It's pretty out there. It's a bit of a curveball, but and Ratchet and Clank 3 is funnily enough from the Ratchet and Clank series. You wouldn't think it, but it is. And it's about a spacefaring called a Lombax. He's essentially like a fox character with a little robot on his back called Clank. That's Ratchet and Clank. And they save the world, and you go to different planets. And these games, back in the PS2 kind of era, made by Insomniac, who went on to do Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
On to kind of bigger, better things.
Mm-hmm.
But well, maybe not better, I'd say. But Ratchet and Clank is the start. it's just a really fun game. I think it's really well thought through, and it's got so much heart in it. Like, it's all the characters are hilarious, and you can tell like the voice actors and the game designers have obviously had like ball making this game. And there's also all these like crazy weapons that you can get that are way too big for your main character. But
I was gonna say that's the selling point for me. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the adverts when this game. I mean, it was when the first one came out, but they did like IRL adverts for it where people had some of the weapons from the game, and I think one of the weapons is you can turn people into chickens. So they were like, there were videos of people in their back garden like shooting people with this gun and turning them into chickens and stuff as their like ad campaign for it.
I love adverts like that.
Yeah,
it's so great when they make a video game advert and it's just like bringing it into real life, and it'll just be the most random thing.
Yeah.
My question is to Adam is why Ratchet & Clank 3 and not any of the others?
Oh, the reason I picked Ratchet & Clank 3 is because it also has a multiplayer mode.
Multiplayer.
I don't know if I ever played it online with people, but you could play this sort of like a co-op version, which was just as good, and it was like a tower defense type game, and you'd have all the weapons in it. It had a lot of potential. Obviously, it was kind of before multiplayer games really took off. I think that was kind of like sowing the seeds of a sort of kind of wacky character shooter, funnily enough. So that's why I picked that one. It's a really tough choice, but
I mean, like for me, Ratchet & Clank itself was an innovator on 3D platformers like Spyro, and I don't know if you guys ever played Croc.
The
PS1 or Banjo-Kazooie is a really obvious 3D platformer, like things like that. Like Ratchet & Clank was taking that onto the PS2 and making it cleaner with a new world. And I really enjoyed it as a kid. I don't know how actually popular it was. I mean, considering Kit and Tim, you haven't played it. Maybe we just happened upon it. On the other side, Impossible Creatures is the pinnacle of innovation on a real-time strategy game. Like I grew up playing real-time strategy games, Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Dawn of War, like all these games, all amazing. And then Impossible Creatures, to me, is the best one, and it's not necessarily because it's like it's really not in depth as a game goes. It is for children, like it's a really good entry level strategy game for people to play, but it's just so much more fun than any of the others because it has this added game of figuring out how to combine all these animals and make ridiculous creatures as powerful as possible, and then and like the strategy in that is something as an adult is much more in depth than if you were a child. As a child, it's just which one looks cooler or which one does the most damage, whereas as an adult, it's a huge balance between all their stats and their cost and everything like that. So in my opinion, I think if this was Ratchet & Clank 1, it's funnily enough, if this was Ratchet & Clank 1, I would find this harder. But because it's Ratchet & Clank 3, because it is the third of the series, I will say Impossible Creatures. I would take Impossible Creatures because Impossible Creatures is also a standalone game that has never had a sequel.
Oh, I know. It's never really been remastered or kind of looked at again. But...
No, everyone forgot about it and didn't look at it. It was made by THQ. For those who are interested, Relic Entertainment.
Be interested to hear what you have to say about it as someone who hasn't played either. From the
and I watched a couple of videos in the build up to this, and I watched a video on Impossible Creatures, and I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what the game was. I didn't know if you were humans and you were being attacked by creatures.
Okay, you didn't watch our video on it. We've done there's a video on our channel about it, I think.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'll get to
God, you're the worst.
and Ratchet and Clank, I didn't have a games console prior to the PS3, so I kind of missed most of the Ratchet and Clank series.
Oh my god! What the fuck? Apologies.
Listen to the descriptions though. The only way I can really think about these games is which one I'm most likely to play now, and that would be Impossible Creatures. I think that still looks kind of fun, and I wouldn't mind like picking that up for like a day or two.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you, Kit. I think not obviously. Again, trying to keep the bias away from the fact that I haven't played Ratchet and Clank 3. I mean, I do know Ratchet and Clank, and I have seen people play it, and I'm aware of what it is. And I think, like Johnny, and yourself, Adam, were sort of alluding to that. You know, it's sort of is really entwined with some of those other sort of 3D platformers and some of the other games like Spyro, which I have played, and stuff like that. It's all cut from the same cloth in a way. And I think Impossible Creatures is just so different. And like I can't think of any other game which is so weird in that real-time strategy genre. I mean, I've played Civilization. I've played a lot of the other ones as well. And I think Impossible Creatures is a completely different kettle of fish.
agree.
So I think
you can make one of those.
A kettle and a fish.
For that reason, I think my vote goes to Impossible Creatures.
I just I know it doesn't mean anything, but I vote Ratchet and Clank 3 mainly just for its pride.
Okay, well, I do vote Impossible Creatures as well.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Impossible Creatures wins.
Yeah,
Right.
as expected. Nice. We've got quickly moving on. This is the one that Tim's gonna have to argue for us. I didn't mean for everybody have to do their own arguments, but it's just kind of come like that for most of them.
That's what I meant by the seeding is unfortunate.
Yeah. We have Pokemon Diamond versus Rocket League.
I mean, I haven't played either game. I don't know what.
Oh.
I just picked them for no apparent reason. Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
what have you got to say about these games, Tim?
Yeah, all right. I'll start with Pokemon Diamond. Now, the reason why I picked Diamond specifically out of the whole Pokemon franchise, which has become the biggest franchise ever.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's made the most money, and it's born off the back of Game Freak's sort of foray into gaming, and what they've built off the back of that with the help of Nintendo and obviously it's gone all the way through now to the Nintendo Switch, and what we're seeing with Pokemon now with it becoming almost more of an RPG. It's getting that way. There's open world elements. It's still a lot of work for the Pokemon company to do to address some of the kind of qualms of long-term fans, but still it's moving in the right direction, and it's not going to go anywhere. Let's face it. I think Pokemon's going to be around for a long time. The reason why I picked Pokemon Diamond is because just Diamond was one of the most playable Pokemon games. You know, the depth was there. It was my sort of go-to Pokemon game growing up. So that's why it first sprung to mind. But obviously, objectively, it was kind of the first game. Now, I'm not sure whether it was the first game in the Pokemon franchise to release online features, sort of with a, actual, without you having to be in the same room, so to speak. But basically they introduced this global trade system, which completely changed the face of what you could do with Pokemon. You could connect with people from around the world and battle people and trade and that sort of thing. And I think that was just, it was one of my first kind of forays into online gaming, and just being able to connect to people and trade a little monster over the internet.
I mean, I know Pokemon Diamond was the first one to be released on the DS.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
like from Game Boy, and so even that is like innovation, and it didn't screw up, because quite a lot of the time, like games like that can really mess up when they're going, especially because DS had like touch features, and two screens,
absolutely,
and everything,
absolutely, yeah. And I think they did it right with the DS. I think it didn't have a huge amount of touch related features. They just focused on the core gameplay. They weren't worried about the fact that they've got this brand new dual screen system. I remember the advert for the DS, and there was a man. I'll have to send you guys the advert if you haven't seen it. But I came across it recently, and there's a guy standing in like a white room. It's a very low budget advert, by the looks of it. Standing in a white room and just showing off the dual screen, which dawned on me. I was like, oh my god, DS stands for dual screen.
Oh my god, you blew my mind.
And I was like, oh my god, like these are things I did not realize as a child were so innovative.
Or as an adult for most of us.
Or as an adult. So yeah, and I think, but going back to Pokemon Diamond, I think it was the one that I've sunk the most amount of hours into. Hence the kind of initial thought.
Yeah.
But I think out of all the Pokemon games that I've played, it's definitely a contender for the best Pokemon game.
Has anyone else here played this game?
I watched a lot of gameplay in preparation.
Okay, good. I haven't played it. I've never actually played any Pokemon game apart from Pokemon Go.
I knew when I put it on the list it was going to be difficult for you guys, because I think out of all of us, I'm probably the only Pokemon fanatic fighting my corner.
Well, that's the thing. But I do get the point. Like, Pokemon is a humongously successful franchise. Like, it must be one of the some of the greatest stuff like ever made.
Yeah, exactly.
With this sort of game, like obviously there aren't really any other games like it. I mean, the new one, Temtem, came out into early access, which is like it's a Pokemon like game. But I really don't know of any other games like that.
No, I think for me, and I think it really has a special kind of place for me as a franchise, because this whole franchise was born off the back of video games, and those initial few games, Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, that I've gone back and bought them on emulators, because I just want to play every Pokemon game ever made. That's how good the franchise is.
Yeah, and did the video game start it from the beginning? As in, obviously there was the Pokemon trading card game.
Yeah.
I don't know if that came first, or the show.
I mean, it's a difficult one, because I know that sort of the first Pokemon game I think came out in the late 90s, sort of 1996, 1997. So it's whether the cards have been around longer than that. I don't know. I mean, I'm inclined to say no, but I don't know. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong.
Apparently the game was released first above all, and then the trading cards, but that was only in Japan. And Pokemon didn't release into the US or the UK until 1996, where both the game and the cartoon were released at the same time.
Okay, there you go.
I guess my only question with this one is, so all or most Pokemon, they're kind of released as pairs, right?
Yeah,
and it's like the same game but slightly different.
This was released with Pearl, Pokemon Pearl, right?
Yeah. That's so why is Diamond better than Pearl? Sell it to me.
We haven't even spoken about the other game on this.
No, we haven't. We have gone on a massive on Pokemon Diamond. That's how fond it is to me. But yeah, I think I've played both, and I think it boils down for me to which one my friends were playing, which one people around me were talking about, and that was Pokemon Diamond for the most part. It's I have a couple of friends that still play Pokemon to this day, and it's always quite funny when I kind of connect with them and say, oh, got a new Pokemon game, which one did you get? And 9 times out of 10 we seem to have horrific luck and end up with the same one, so we can't trade the ones that are on. That's always quite funny.
Do you think that if it was the other way, if it was Pokemon Pearl, you would still be here arguing for that one instead of Pokemon Diamond?
I don't know. I think that there's so little difference between the two in terms of gameplay. It's more about version exclusives.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the version exclusives of Diamond, notably the kind of main cover piece Pokemon, I just like that design more for Pokemon Diamond. So I think and that's something that I've shared throughout the whole franchise, is that I just prefer the design and just the way different Pokemon operate. So that kind of tends to push me towards certain games.
Yeah, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Well, let's really quickly go over Rocket League, which has a sad side of the airtime.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I'll quickly just say the thing. I mean, I play a lot of Rocket League. Obviously, it's a very competitive game. From my point of view, anyway. The reason I love it so much is because it is a competitive game with almost no prelude to your skill until you pick up the game. And there was a version before this called Super Acrobatic Rocket Powered Battle Cars.
Supersonic,
sorry, SART BC. Which was that's an old school, really unknown game that only a few people who still play Rocket League now played. So there was literally nothing that could prepare you for this game. Competitive shooters, some people are just better at playing shooters than other people, whereas this is learning something completely new. And that's why I love it. I think it's got great competitive integrity to it. And I also think it's super clean. For a physics-based game where you play a car that can fly and you're playing football, it's really clean. It really never breaks. Nothing ever goes wrong in the game.
Yeah,
so
exactly. I think
super simple.
Just to add to that, I think Rocket League came out as a free game on PS4.
Yeah.
I literally downloaded it as soon as it was available as a free PS Plus game on PS4. Sort of downloaded it and was like, no idea what this is.
And this is 4 years ago as well.
5 years ago almost.
Yeah, so it's a really long time ago.
And I've been playing it ever since. It was one of the reasons that I decided to get a better PC. It's opened up a whole world of opportunity for me, and I've met a load of good friends through it, and really it's just a real sort of one of the top games I play. So again, that's really why personally it came to my mind. But I think like Johnny said, it's just super clean. It's the only game I've ever played that is almost entirely skill based. There's very little luck involved in it.
Yeah. I do like that.
It's it's something that the skill ceiling is ever getting greater.
I think that's another thing on the competitive integrity of this sort of game. The people are still getting better at this game.
Yeah, it hasn't
the top players are still getting better, whereas in other competitive games, I don't think that happens. I think people are really good, and then they run the game dry and then they leave. And that just doesn't happen in this game.
Overwatch, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in Overwatch, people are getting better in general. When we play, people in Platinum maybe are better than they used to be. Even though I say that, probably not. But I think the GMs and the masters of Overwatch are still at the same level. Maybe they have better game sense, but that's it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
About the same, I would
But
say.
with this in mind, as games go, I am willing to accept. It's difficult. I'm willing to accept a Pokemon game is better than, as games go, is more influential, more impactful than Rocket League.
Yeah.
This one's really hard for me, actually. If I take myself out of it.
I think what's going to sway is what Adam and Kit think about it, because you know they can be as effective as possible. So I think it's going to be pretty interesting to hear what they've got to say.
I think I've decided, and
straight away.
it comes down to, I mean, like, yeah, we can try and take ourselves out of this, but for this one in particular, I cannot, because I'm terrible at Rocket League, and therefore I hate Rocket League.
Okay.
So by process of deduction,
and so Pokemon Diamond is better. I guess.
Adam, what about you?
It's really weird because I actually was going to say something really similar. I've definitely, there's been loads of times where I've played it, tried to get into it, and tried to, like, even against Leo, like, Leo destroys me.
Yeah.
I just think that, come on, Diamond, even though I haven't played it, and I don't know, like, I probably would try to at some point, but it's like a whole other, the whole Nintendo universe for me is just like another, just somewhere else. Like, it's just always been like consoles and PC, like PlayStation. I think I would go with Pokemon Diamond.
Okay.
All right, Tim, what are you voting for?
Yeah, it's a tough one for me. Really tough, obviously. But yeah, taking myself out of the equation, I would have to say the Pokemon Diamond has been more influential.
Alrighty, fair enough. I mean, I'll give Rocket League a vote, so it's not sad. I can't really not vote for it, seeing as I've put 1,000 hours into that game in a year.
Yeah.
So
it's and yeah, it's shown, man. You're getting good.
Yeah, I'm really good now, but
we can play competitive twos together at Grand Champ level and win, which is crazy. You started this game what, 3 years after me?
Yeah.
And we can play together. That's crazy.
Makes me happy. Anyway, we better go. We better move quick now because we have been talking for an hour.
Yeah.
And we really haven't got that far.
Maybe this will have to be a few parts.
So we're going straight on to the next one. We have Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, the latest and last Uncharted game. I don't know if they've said it's the last.
I don't know if they've said it either, but it's the last one that was released.
And coming up against Terraria.
Oh boy.
I mean,
it's not like you might be leaning towards one game.
I haven't actually played either of these games, but I have played a lot of Uncharted. But I don't know, really quick, why Uncharted, Adam?
Specifically, why? Because Uncharted
specifically 4
is the reason I picked that one is because similar reasons why people would pick The Last of Us. Like, the thing about Naughty Dog games is it's just you're playing an interactive film.
Yeah,
that's something I get a lot of enjoyment out of, and kind of get a lot of like inspiration out of. I find it really just feel awesome when you're playing it. And Uncharted 4, I played with my flatmates who aren't usually video gamers and kind of just detest games in general, I'd say. And they loved it. Like, they fell in love with it, fell in love with the characters and with the story. And maybe that's kind of what it comes down to, is the story and the characters. So who knows? Maybe it's not the actual game itself, but I just thought that, like, it's such a clean game. Again, we say about clean, and like just specifically for the bit where you like swing off of a log and you jump and like you land on someone, like there. It's like, it's awesome. Like, it's got to go through. That's my.
All right. Okay, Tim.
Let me just preface this by saying I love Uncharted. But, however, the reason I picked Terraria, some may think it's a Minecraft ripoff, but to those people, I say listen closely. All right. The developers of Terraria, Relogic, are some of the best people to have ever graced this earth. They released this game how many years ago? A long time ago. And basically they've continued to push out free updates to this game that makes it forever. There's new content. There's a new update coming out on the 16th of May this year, which I'm really excited for. The number of games, the number of times I've played that game is ridiculous. And I just think that this was kind of my wildcard pick in the sense that I wanted to pick this game not just because it's a great game, but because of the attitude of the developers. They're a small little developer that's just poured their heart and soul into this game. They're continuing to push out free updates, to their existing player base, not expecting much in return, really. And it's just making the game a great place to be, and it's got a great community. So,
well, Tim fighting for the little developers who are trying really hard. I will say that Tim has bought me this game, and I haven't played it yet. I really need to play it.
That's a sponsorship.
I really do need to play it. In my opinion, I haven't played Uncharted 4, but I have watched it. And
I think that says a lot
in my opinion, I mean, there is another Uncharted game on here, this list that I have put on, which I believe to be the best Uncharted game ever made, and I therefore cannot vote for another Uncharted game. Only one will rule supreme. So I don't know. I'm going against being factual, and I like Tim's argument here. I like both arguments. I think the fact that one of these games is about bringing people who aren't really into gaming into gaming, very cool, and also great small developers who are supporting a game still after many years, also very cool. As a developer, I kind of have to side with that, I think.
Makes sense.
Sweet.
I'm not offended.
Okay, so I'm voting Terraria.
Okay, Kit, what do you think?
Yeah, I haven't played either of these games again. I have played, I believe, Uncharted 3, which I didn't enjoy.
It's definitely the worst one.
Unfortunately, that's the one I played.
Yeah.
But I have watched Uncharted 4, and I loved watching it. And I think I have watched the other two as well, 1 and 2.
Uh-huh.
And I think, obviously, I didn't play the second one, which is also on this list. But to me, at least, it seemed that Uncharted 4 fixed the problems that I had with Uncharted 3.
Okay.
And I think, again, I'm going to have to go off which one I'd be more likely to play, and I think it will be Uncharted 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Tim.
It's okay.
I guess I'm guessing because I probably still say Uncharted 4.
Yeah,
Tim say Terraria.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a coin flip.
It's a coin.
Right, Uncharted is heads, Terraria is tails. Are you ready? Oh God. Heads. Uncharted wins. I'm sorry, Tim. That's the second coin flip you've lost.
No, that's fine. As I say, I love Uncharted, and I think it's a great series.
Okay, Uncharted moves through the bracket. Next, we gotta go quicker, guys. We really do. We have Journey, game I put on here, going up against Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Okay.
Oh,
Tim game.
God. That's a Tim game.
Tim game.
It might be.
I'll just say Journey is the game that made me decide to go to university to learn how to make games. Journey made me cry, and there is no like dialogue. There's no physical story in that game. It made me cry just because of how like utterly amazing it is as an experience. Also, the music in that game is unbelievable. I feel like that's all I need to say. It made me cry, guys.
Did Super Galaxy make you cry, Tim?
I mean, it makes me cry just how good it is.
Good response.
Yeah, so basically, I think Super Mario Galaxy 2, I'll come on to why I'm saying 2 in a sec, but I think it just embodies everything Nintendo does well. I mean, Nintendo does everything well, in my opinion. And I think that's an opinion shared by a lot of people that use Nintendo software and systems. I think they really have just dominated their own corner of the market, and they make games and systems like nobody else. And Super Mario Galaxy is one of those. Not number 2. I think basically Super Mario Galaxy, for people who don't know, is it's a kind of 3D platformer game based on individual little sort of worlds that are isolated from one another, and each world has its own little sort of quirks, its own little enemies, bosses, sort of differing mechanics, that sort of thing, different things Mario can do. And I think it's really paved the way for a lot of later Mario games. Most recently Super Mario Odyssey sort of builds upon that formula and has met sort of critical success again. Even though Nintendo have sort of used that formula that they know works. So I think it just shows how well these games are received by the public, really. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I will say Mario games. I mean, Mario is the quintessential simple game mechanic done to the best possible way. That's what Nintendo does. That's why Mario is so successful. And I know Super Mario Galaxy 2, I don't know, the only reason that I'm unsure about, I mean, I've obviously haven't played it, is that it's, I don't know, there are so many Mario games.
I was gonna say,
and in my opinion, they're all good.
Yeah,
they all do it well.
What makes I'm going to say the same thing. Like, I think it's right that there should be a Mario game on this list.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I could have picked a whole host of different Mario games, and I think the reason why I picked this one is because it strays so far into its own, like the Super Mario Galaxy little sort of series, strays so far into its own territory that no other game, no other sort of manufacturer, game developer makes games like that. Nintendo doesn't even really make games like that. They're using that formula now going forward, but I think Super Mario Galaxy was really the advent of that kind of like super weird, chuck all this design, let your designers go crazy type thing, and then allow Mario to run around it and have a great time, basically. So I think that's why I've picked that particular Mario game.
I feel like we have to vote kind of straight away. I can't not vote for Journey because I do think it's probably my favorite. Apart from The Last of Us, it's probably my favorite game I've ever played.
Yeah,
and I've only played Journey once because I don't want to play it again.
That's a pretty big impression to make when you from one playthrough.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I vote for Journey.
Okay, Adam, what about you?
I think it's so tough because I think it's basically like Super Mario Galaxy is just like complete fun, isn't it? That's just like fun you can get with a game. Versus like Journey, it sounds like, which is going to have like a lasting effect on you, or is going to like have some kind of poignancy. So it's really hard to pick between those two. My flatmates are singing. They'll wear themselves out in a bit. I think I would probably that like toss up. I'd probably pick Ernie. I think just because of, it's probably a game that I would then be like fascinated to play.
Yeah.
Have that like impact on someone. Be like, well, I want to see if it has that impact on me.
Yeah, definitely.
That kind of stems from like a Last of Us thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's really tough though. They're really like.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave myself to the last. So, Kit, what
yeah, so yeah, this one it's a tough matchup. I think I really respect what Journey has done. But I can't bring myself to vote against Mario. I think Mario is always something that it doesn't matter what mood you're in or whatever. Like Mario is the quintessential game.
That's true.
And if we're looking for the best games, I think Mario's up there definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Now, yeah, I'm kind of 50-50. I know a bit about Journey, and out of all the games that sort of came up on this list and various ones, it's the ones that has interested me the most. So yeah, I've been kind of tossing and turning throughout this discussion whether to vote for either one. Obviously, I pitched Mario and quite fervently. So yeah, I think like Kit, I think Journey gets an honourable mention, but I will vote for Super Mario.
Does this make another coin flip? Is this a
It
coin
does
flip?
make a coin flip.
Oh god,
You can't lose a third on it.
Journey's heads. Journey's heads. Mario is
Tails.
And I'm being, this is Tails.
Tails.
Mario
Tails?
wins.
Woohoo!
Journey's
Sorry,
out.
guys.
That's unlucky.
Well
Yeah,
done,
that's
Tim.
unlucky. It's not my personal. It's not my baby. It's just one sports day or something. It's I'm sad for Journey.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Like you're a proud parent.
Yeah.
Yeah. God.